Well, I'm here today with five brave members from our church who wants to help us honor the Lord for the gift of mothers in our lives. You know, mothers are so essential. They're so precious and valuable to our lives, to our families, to our church, to our society. And so if you're a mom listening today, go ahead and write in the chat that you're a mother. And we just want to say we value you. We love you, we care for you, and we thank you for everything you do here in our lives and in our world. Now, for some, Mother's Day is not really a day they look forward to. Whether it's because you grew up without a mom, or maybe you had a kind of a dysfunctional relationship with your mom. Maybe you wanted to be a mom, but for some reason you couldn't have any kids. Maybe your mom passed away, and so this is a moment that just kind of brings back, painful memories for you. Maybe you're a man and you just don't like Mother's Day because it doesn't concern you. There's a man from another church we were talking with, and he said, I don't like Mother's Day. And so we asked him, why don't you like Mother's Day? He says, well, in my church, on Mother's Day, we always talk about how moms are special and precious and important. But when it's Father's Day, we always talk about how we could improve and how we could be better dads. And so I don't like Mother's Day. And so if you're a dad, we value you too. You're important, you're special, and we all have room to improve, don't we? So, with that understanding that we all have kind of different settings in regards to our relationship with our moms, we decided to do things a little different this year. You know, in the past, we had a panel like the one we have today, but we interviewed moms. Today, we're going to interview sons and daughters who will speak on their experience and memories of their moms. And I love this panel because it reflects the diversity we have in our society and in our church as well. And we're going to hear from different kind of people, different age group. We're going to hear from Bill, a man who's going to talk about his experience relationship with his mom, a woman of faith. We're going to hear from a young adult, a young lady, Kathleen, who's going to talk about her experience and relationship with her mom, a mom that we know in our church, Catherine. We're going to hear from two ladies, Heather and Theodora, whose moms are just on fire for the Lord. We're going to hear from Carla, whose mom recently passed away. And so thank you all for accepting to be here on this panel today. So without any more delay, let's welcome our friends and our guests here today at this panel. Go ahead and write in the chat, good morning, greetings, whatever the language you use to say good morning. Well, everyone, first of all, let me pull them up. I'm going to bring them here. And it's a little disclaimer. We're doing this on Zoom. We've got some country internet. We've got some iPads and all that stuff. Let me say this. This is way better than nothing at all. And so some of these faces you probably haven't seen in a while. And I just want to bring everybody here on the call with me. And so good morning, everyone. And I want to first thank you all for accepting to be here and talk about your experience with your mom. You know, we have multiple goals today. First, we want to honor the Lord for the gift of moms in our lives and our church and our family. Second, we also have some young parents listening. And, I believe that this conversation will be inspiring to them. Third, it's always good to be reminded of how good we have it. You know, sometimes, it's very easy to get familiar with our parents and take them for granted. And so a talk like today could be a great motivator and great encouragement to help us appreciate the blessing of family and also the blessing of having a mom. Fourth goal here is that there's some moms that could use some encouragement today, with everything that they have to, the mom today, sometimes they have expectations, there's some tasks, there's some responsibilities, there's some roles she's called to walk in with this whole lockdown on top of that, just increasing some extra pressure. And so maybe there's some moms listening today that need some encouragement. If you're a mom and you need some encouragement and support today, just go right ahead in the chat and say, I need some. Fifth reason or fifth goal is that there's some people listening today that maybe never been or never will be a physical mom. I'm looking at Bill right now. but you may be a spiritual parent, and you could be an inspiration to someone today. And the sixth reason, well, this is Mother's Day, and so this is a great opportunity for you to give a shout out to your mom if she's listening today. So let's get right into it. Tell us something funny about your mom. We're going to have moments where you're going to be able to talk about meaningful experiences and memories you have from your mom. But is there any bloopers, anything that you know she wouldn't mind you sharing um, today? We're going to start with Theodora.
Hello, everyone. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I wanted to share a funny story just to show that mothers, although sometimes they need to keep everything together, sometimes letting things go and letting things pass help build stronger relationships with their children. So this is something that happened a few years ago. My daughter Emma was still young. She was in a high chair, so we would all often go to the mall for a walk, especially in the winter time, and then we would stop at the food court for a little snack. And in this instance, we stopped to have Chinese food at the food court. And Emma sitting in a high chair between my mom and myself. My mom was struggling with her little package of soy sauce. She couldn't open it. So I said, well, let me give it a try. So I grabbed that 535 ml bag of soy sauce. And as I opened it, I flung it and the whole package emptied on my mother. So we froze. We didn't know what's going to happen at this point. She was dripping soy sauce from her glasses, from her hair. So it was kind of a moment where we didn't know it could go either way. It could go very south or it could go. So even Emma, being small, she didn't know how to react. And then all of a sudden, all three of us started laughing, crying, laughing. It was a funny moment. And it was just something that we remember at this point too. When we go to the Chinese store, I say, Mom, you don't want to give me that soy sauce. It might end up being emptied again where we don't want it. So it's just a funny story just to show that although things were not always very light, but that moment just allowing things to pass just made the day just that much special, and allowed us to just grow closer and have a moment that we remember for years again and again. We just talk about it and have fun on it.
That is so funny. And I know your mother, Voika, and I just could see the face when she's done that. That's just so funny. I'm thinking about my kids always like the story of my mom. It's just so funny because when I was young, and there's something for parents to know. If you have young boys and you encourage your young boys with something, let's say it's a t-shirt, and you say, wow, you got a really nice t-shirt. Guess what's going to happen? He's going to wear that t-shirt every day of the week. And it's just talks about the power of encouragement for a young boy. And I had a blue hoodie shirt that somebody said it was a nice shirt. So I wear it practically every opportunity I had. And my mom said, you can't wear the same shirt every day at school. And so one day I'm getting ready to go to school. I got my blue hoodie on, and she says, you're not wearing that to go to school. And so she took it away from me. And so I went and put something else on. And, so there was like kind of a 15-minute gap where she would go to work and I would be outside waiting for the bus. And I managed to sneak in the house through the windows. Back in those days, the windows were really easy to open. And here I am. I'm taking my blue hoodie. I go to work. I go to school. I mean, and at recess, I'm eating my snack in the Ziploc bag that my mom gave me, and watching a soccer game of my friends playing. And the soccer ball comes towards me, and I'm eating my snack, and the guys are saying, "Kick it back to us." And I don't know what took me, what I was thinking. I decided to be a troll that day, and I kicked the ball as far as I could. And so the guy running towards the ball, he actually continued running towards me, and he pushed me on the ground. And when I fell to the ground, I broke my wrist basically because I tried to stop myself, and I broke the wrist. And so I went to the principal's office. I'm waiting for my mom to come pick me up to bring me to the clinic. And I'm expecting, my mom to come in and say, "Wow, are you okay, my son? Are you hurt? Are you in pain?" And the first thing that comes out of her mouth is, and I see her eyes, is, "How did you get the blue hoodie back on?" And so I don't know if I was more afraid of the pain that I was going through, or to see my mom catch me with the blue hoodie. And so I always thought that was the kids always ask me to repeat that story here. Let me ask you a question. What is your best memory of your mom? What's the best thing you remember of your mom? We're going to start with Bill.
The best memory, it's really hard to say one memory, but there's many. Um, when I moved to Ottawa and Ro and I got married, they would come and visit on the weekends. And mom was always the kind of woman that would want to participate in all the activities with the kids or with us. So she was always like cleaning out the garden, or making my oldest two boys clean out the driveway when there was weeds in it. But I would think the best memory would be when she hopped on her ATVs and putted around the yard, going at a very extremely slow pace with the kids running after her. And I can still see it now, the kids running after her and making fun of her as she's in the backyard doing maybe 3 or 4 kilometers an hour. But she always loved to participate with the kids. And that probably is one of my fondest memories. And at the age of 90, Rosanna, my wife, had taken my mom on the back of the ATV and just wandered through the woods, through all the dirt and the hills and the trees. And she loved doing that. I think that probably the best memory of all. I'll never forget it.
I'll jump in on this one.
Okay.
Um, One of my best memories with my mom is this was after my dad passed away. She needed a partner to go along with her on a cruise. So she invited me to go with her. And we got to spend 2 weeks cruising the Panama Canal and a lot of other places. And I think this is sort of answering the next question too, but one of the best memories of all was she was 75 years old at the time. And I had decided I'm going to go and do this excursion myself. And I'll let the ladies, because we were with my aunt and her friend as well, I'll let the ladies do what they want to do. So I told my mom, I'm going to go zip lining in Costa Rica. Like, I'm going to do this. I think at the time was one of the longest and highest zip lines in the world. So my mom sat with this information for a little while, and then she said, Heather, I want to go do this zip lining too. So I said, okay, sure. And we had just a fantastic time. Here she is, 75 years old, doing, like, I don't know how many, definitely over 100 feet, some of them, all of these zip lines through the jungle of Costa Rica. So she's a real trooper.
That's funny. That shows you have a courageous mom, not afraid of trying new things. Very adventurous of your mom to do that. Anybody else wants to speak on this?
When the exhibition would come around, we would go on rides, but my mom would go on the roller coaster with me, which was hilarious. But the nice thing was when my daughter got older, the three of us would go on rides together. So it was kind of neat having three generations on one ride. And they weren't like little tiny roller coasters or anything like that. It was like the big ones. So that was a lot of fun.
Next question here. So Heather already shared hers, but what's your favorite? What's the best memory you remember of your mom? And those of you who are listening on the chat, go ahead and maybe write that if you don't mind, so that you guys can participate with us at the same time. But what's the best thing you remember of your mom in a few words?
So, my favorite memory of her, experience with her would be when I was younger. We would, on rainy days, during the summertime, instead of going outside since it's raining, we would be watching movies and TV series. together. We'd be cuddled up on the sofa. I'd probably be eating marshmallows. And even to this day, we still remember those TV shows that we watch and reminisce on them together.
Theodora?
Yes, I would like to share a memory. So I grew up in Romania during communism, where you couldn't buy toys, very few choices for Christmas presents. But I remember my mother always trying very hard to make it special, and I felt always it was always a magical time for me, Christmas time. And I remember the toy. I usually would get one or two toys, and I would play with these toys um, uh, to until they were completely broken. And I remember this makeup kit that my mom. It was all plastic, but I was so mesmerized by these commercials that I would see, Hungarian commercials. We could see Hungarian TV channels. Um, so I would be very mesmerized by these commercials of this makeup kit. So she got me something the most similar thing that she could find. And I was absolutely, I remember it had little vanity lights and just the effort that she put in to make things special for me, and really not feel the burden of the social situation of the time. So yeah, she did her part.
Let's jump into the next question. So far, this is great. We're going to get into some deeper stuff in just a moment. But one more question about this. What is the one of the top things that you appreciate the most about your mom? And go ahead and write it, in a word or two. Go ahead in the chat and just say, the things that you like, one or two things that you like the most about your mom, in a few words. But we're gonna ask Carla here. What is one of the top things that you appreciate the most of your mom?
Well, my mom, she had three children, first of all. She worked full time, so you can imagine how busy she was. But my mom was always there for me, no matter what the situation was, where she was at the time that I needed her. She would, if she was at work when I needed her, she would leave work and she would come and be with me. So that was that was a nice thing that I could always count on her no matter what.
It's always good to know that you could rely on your mom no matter what. Thanks for sharing that. Carla, anybody else want to speak on this? And then we're going to get into some deeper stuff. Kathleen.
So for me, it would be um, how joyful she is just all the time. Regardless of the situation, she always finds the happiness in everything, and she's like a little ray of sunshine, essentially. And she always has comforting words to say if anything goes wrong. She's just always happy, essentially. So that's just really great.
She is. I know Katrin, and I'm telling you, she got a contagious joy that is just there. She's just always smiling. And your father's like that too, but Katrin has that. She got that. And, so we're blessed to know her. And thanks for sharing that. All right, we're going to get into the deeper stuff, and hopefully these things are going to be inspiring and edifying for our listeners today. So, motherhood is it's a tough job, and we've already mentioned it a little bit. There's all kinds of labels, all kinds of hats moms in 2021 have to wear today, and even back in the days too. There's a lot of expectations on moms. It's a tough job. And then, on top of it, some of the moms, we've got a lot of homeschoolers in our church that were doing it pre-COVID, but now there's some moms that for the first time they're doing homeschooling with their kids, and on top of that, some of them are working, and so there's all kinds of extra uh, descriptions of work that they have to do now on top of everything else. And so it's a tough job already in itself. But what do you think what do you think one of the greatest challenge of your mom was when you were a young person? What are some of her challenges. I'm going to ask Theodora if you don't mind going first.
So for my mom, as I said, my mom raised me in Romania during communism, and I think the biggest challenge for her was to leave an abusive relationship with my father, and actually step away from that situation in a society that did not accept divorce very easily, that women didn't have very much opportunities raising children by themselves. It was hard living on two-income household, hard enough, but living on one-income household, and that coming from a woman that didn't earn as much as a man, that was even harder. And I think my mom was a very progressive person to that. At that point, she was one of a kind, really. She could say that she's strong enough to keep a household on her own, and she did it. And she and years later she left everything she's built in Romania to be here with Emma and myself. So she's gone through huge life changes, um, for me, essentially, for me, for us, and for our sake. And I'm forever grateful for what she's done.
Yeah, she doesn't look like she had it easy for her. Definitely big challenge there. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else share talk about some of her biggest challenges that you saw her when you grew up?
I'll share something about my mother. Obviously, my mother and father raised 6 kids, um, but Dad was always working afternoon shift at a factory from 3 to 11. So Mom took the brunt of raising us, with one of her sons being mentally challenged. And then to top that, there was 3 of the older kids that were rebelling and backsliding. So mom did a great job, but mom was a Christian from early on in her life, where she always learned to lean on the Lord. And I can remember she told me a story where she was in a room in her prayer closet, and she was praying, and God spoke to her that you pray for your family and your kids. And there's a verse in scripture that she was aware of where you teach your kids early on in life the godly ways, and it won't return void. And mom was that kind of woman where her faith was extremely strong through all the adversities that she went through. um, I would think that now, mom being 94, is probably the closest she's ever been to God through all the challenges in her life. And she would say, Billy, that even though I'm 94 and I read my scriptures, I learn something new every day that I didn't know yesterday. So mom's a strong woman, extremely strong for the things that she's gone through. And I think through all that adversities that she's gone through is what's made her the way she is today. We always kid when we talk about my mom. We always say, mom has a direct line to God. She doesn't need the internet. She prays from 3 to 4 hours a day. So she does her devotions and prays. She prays for the whole family. Uh, all her kids, all her grandkids, and all her grandkids' wives and their kids. And so she's an extremely strong woman of faith amidst all the struggles and challenges that she's had to face throughout her whole life.
Your mom sounds like a very, a woman that I would want to get to know. And also, please mention her. Please mention me to her so she could pray for me during that 3 to 4 hours a day. And so we all need prayer. But man, that's quite an encouragement to grow up in a home where your mom is such a woman of faith, and she's 94. She maybe get getting weaker physically, but she's got a strong faith. That's a pretty good testimony that you want your kids to see. So thanks for sharing that, Bill. Anybody else want to speak on the challenge, Heather?
Bill's mom reminds me of my mom because she's very much the same way, um, in praying for the whole family and in praying for Sean's family and everyone related. But I think one of the greatest challenges that I've seen my mom do is to let go of the children when the children become adults and leave the home. My mom had to let go, like especially of me, who kind of went down a direction that my mom wouldn't have wanted me to go. But like there was even a point where I was going through a really rough time, and both my parents even went and got counseling themselves because they wanted to be able to deal with their reactions to what I was going through. So I think that I really admired that because being a parent isn't easy and life isn't perfect. And sometimes the parents need to get help as well to deal with what the children are doing. So um, that I think that's one of the biggest challenges is to let go and have faith in God.
Thanks for sharing that, Heather. You guys are speaking, and I'm sure most of you share a certain challenge that you saw your mom go through during the years where you grew up. And I'm thinking my mom, I'm saying this very, um, respectfully, but I think her greatest challenge was me. I was going through kind of a rebellious stage. For those of you who don't know me, I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't. My first words were not "Praise the Lord." I grew up there was a time in my life, especially when I was between 14 and 19 in my life, where I was kind of a rebel. I was rebellious, and her biggest challenge was me during those years. And so I thank God for the relationship I have with my mom today that is totally different than what it was in those days. But I'm grateful my mom still has hair because I was her biggest challenge during those days. And maybe there's somebody listening right now, and that's your challenge with your kids. You're like, I'm trying to get through my kid. I'm trying to show them I actually love them, but they understand something else. They think I'm trying to control them. I'm trying to tell them what to do every time. And so sometimes it brings kind of a challenge in itself to do the whole parenting thing because, kids don't always listen. I know I didn't listen back in those days, and I was anti-authority, anti-rules, anti whatever you told me to do, I would do the opposite. And so sometimes that's a challenge in itself. So next question here is, out of the struggles or challenges that your mom has been through, um, what inspired you in how she dealt with it, or how she coped with it, or how she managed to get out of it, or to handle it? Maybe Kathleen, if you want to speak on that.
Yeah. So we did migrate from Haiti when I was younger, so when I was 5 years old. So my parents did have to go through the whole process of integrating into a new country and learning the new ways. And the one thing that I did learn from my mom would be to persevere, because she always just kept going and she always asked God that if it is His will, then please strength to keep going. So yeah, that's really what she taught me, to just always ask, make sure that it's God's will, and go for it.
Perseverance is one of those strong things. You see your mom going through the challenges, because she doesn't get to quit, right? It's one of those jobs that, if the times get tough, you can't just say, oh, I quit, I'm not a mom anymore. You're on full time, right? Same thing with a dad. It's like, when there's challenges there, no matter what the challenges are, you're still on. And you can't just, so you got to persevere through these times. And so it's good to hear from you, Kathleen, that your mom inspired you through that. Um, those of you who are listening on chat, go ahead and say maybe one word or one characteristics of your mom that really inspired you in how she dealt with her challenges. Okay, we're going to move to the next question. Is there anything your mom did that said or did that inspired you or changed how you think, how you see the world? In other words, how did her life impact who you are today? And we're going to ask Theodora to start.
The reason why I had to answer to that question is because I am who I am today because of my mother. Because of my mother, I had a good childhood. I had an opportunity to go to high school and have an education. Because of my mother, I was able to go to university and have a career in nursing. She supported me through my nursing school, and now going forward, she's still there for us. She's always, how can I help you? How can I help you get through this challenging stretch? She always knows that, she can help, and she can, because that's what she does best. She is a caregiver, and she has unconditional love, and especially when it comes to serving others, she is a wonderful person, and I am who I am today because of my mother. And I've chosen this path in my life because of her, because of who she is.
Yeah, I could relate to what you're saying about your mom. I mean, right now we're in a time of, we're trying to protect the vulnerables, and she would fall into that category of vulnerable with the whole COVID situation. But yeah, she calls me one day and says, I want to serve, Pastor. I want to help people. And we're trying to protect her and everything. But just to speak on that servant heart, she just wants to help people. Even if there's some risk involved, it's just very inspiring to me to hear that. Anybody else want to speak on that? And you in the chat on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to share the things that that kind of made you who you are today by the example in life, and maybe some actions or words that you saw your mom do, or for some of you, and maybe you saw your mom pray for you during these times, and that spoke volume to you. For others, it may be a gesture, an action, an event, or just a regular thing that she would do all the time, a routine or something she would always say that really impacted who you are today. Bill?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that my mother ever did for her family, and myself is included in that, is the way she prayed for us, the way she would teach us about God, teach us about Scripture. Um, I don't think my thinking was changed. I think that she created in the family a way that was godly, that would pretty much set us for life. It wasn't so much that we had to change, is that what she taught us was the way we went, or the way I went anyway. I would think the biggest thing that inspired me about my mom, and this might be an encouragement to other mothers and fathers, is that she never preached to me. She never pushed the word down my throat. She always did it in love. It was always teaching. It wasn't preaching. So it was something that it's something that I've applied in my life at a very, very young age. I remember I backslid for about 6 or 8 months, and she never said anything to me about it. She just would pray, and that's how it was in the whole family. And she had some pretty challenging things to deal with, and she would go in her prayer closet and pray, and that's what got her through. And I think that's what inspired me the most. Is she's a praying woman. And hopefully I can take that till I'm 94 and use it in my life and in my kids' life. And I can teach my kids the same way. And hopefully that produces fruit the way she produced fruit in her family.
That's really good. Yeah, sometimes it's not about changing how we see, but if you're raising your kids, obviously you're kind of planting those seeds that shapes how they think. And wow, what a testimony. Tough question here, and but it's real talk. And sometimes with the age gap or the generational gap, it could be a challenge for both the mom or the dad and the child. And so sometimes I hear all the time students saying, my mom doesn't understand me or my dad doesn't understand me. He's too old school. He doesn't get it. And then, you're talking to the parent and the parent are saying, well, man, he's not listening. He's not being obedient. And so there's kind of a communication glitch happening. And sometimes that's because we live in two different worlds. We come from two different realities, different generations. So there's a challenge, I'm sure, most parents deal with. Most moms have to deal with their daughter or with their son. And so, talk about a time where that happened in your relationship with your mom, if you're comfortable with that. And how did you guys deal with it? How did you guys come to an agreement to, say, we're not going to always see eye to eye on this or that? How did you deal? Kathleen, would you mind talking about that?
Yeah. So for me, it would be when I would be in elementary school. Most children would have technological tools, or just the way they interact. Also, when I would come back home and I would tell my mom, well, can I have a phone? Can I have an iPad? And as most parents at that age would say no, because they do understand the security threat that brings to the home, how dangerous that can be. And it's natural. She wants to protect me, and I understand that. I understood that. But going back to school, and then you would see some kids having certain tools. You wouldn't want those. And also, just sometimes when the way that they talk, and then you would come back home, and then you would talk that way, you don't understand. Like, I wouldn't understand that it's not necessarily um, an appropriate thing to say, just because I was still growing and I didn't know what they meant. So I just came back home and I would say them, and then she would just teach me gradually that no, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't have that. And one way that we were able to fix that generational gap, I would speak to her. I would tell her what kids at school would say. She would really explain to me what they meant. She would tell me what is right, what is wrong. And as for the technology, my dad is a very techie guy. Um, so he was able to um, kind of breach that gap between me and her, and say, well, yes, he does understand the threat that phones and technological tools bring to a home, especially with younger kids. But he also knew how to fix those, how to protect me from this. So that's how he was able to reach that gap between me and my mom. So it's really just communication is key. Just talking to be able to understand where the space is.
My goodness, Kathleen, I am so glad you brought that up because that is a common thing right now with technology, with playing video games, with you know tablets, speaking to your friends on video chats, and one of the common things we notice with parents is that a lot of times the parent will feel bad for saying no to their kids, right? So they want. I remember my son, my youngest son. He saw my oldest. We waited till he was about 9, and his grandma bought him an iPad. It wasn't an iPad; it was a tablet actually. And so all of a sudden, the youngest child wants a tablet too. And we're like, no, you're going to wait till you're about 9 or 10 years old to have it. But everybody at school has one. And so the parent that says no to their child for the the new PlayStation that's super expensive will feel bad because all the other parents bought one for their kids, and so they look like the bad parent. So sometimes they'll say, my mom doesn't understand me or my dad doesn't understand me. And so it's good that you guys were able to work that out and bring some understanding that if you're going on every website, it brings security to the home but also to yourself as well, and some of the relationships you're going to build online with people. And so thanks for bringing that up. um, Anybody else on maybe how you experience that generational gap in your communication? Anybody else dealt with that? Dad, you just don't get it. Mom, you just don't get it. Or the mom who says, I think my child thinks he knows it all, right? He's 9 years old and he knows it all. He's an expert at life. And so there is a way to do this, and that's one of the challenges mom have to go through this. Okay, the next question, question number 9. We have a lot of young parents that are watching, or we have people that will be parents eventually. It'll be a mom or dad. What lessons would you give those new parents or new moms that you learned from yours? We're going to start with Heather.
We've mentioned this before, but I think it's so important is prayer. Prayer is a big one, like what Bill was mentioning about his mom, and I've seen that in my mom. So I would say to younger parents, prayer and seeking God's help, because there's a lot of things that parents don't have control over, and they need help. And attitude is another one too. Like my mom right now is in Alberta living in a small apartment, and all of her kids and grandkids live here in Ontario. And her attitude has just amazed me. So attitude is a big one too, because you actually can change the people's attitudes around you with your own attitude. And she's done that with me, where I look at her and I say, I need to be content where I'm at. So
That's good.
yeah.
That's really good. Anybody else want to speak on lessons that you learned from your mom you would give somebody?
I, I just want to make a comment. I think the biggest lesson, I'm not a mother, obviously, but the biggest lesson that Rosanna and I have learned through raising kids, so we have 5 of them. The biggest one is letting go. Your kids won't learn anything unless they make mistakes. And when they make a mistake, they notice it's a mistake, and then they'll turn from that mistake and they learn from it. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was letting our daughter go when she went to school, to YWAM, and I was heartbroken. Like, I wept, and we prayed for her, and it was something that we had to deal with. And we prayed and said, God, you're sovereign. You gave us this child for a moment in time, and now we give her back to you to do with what you will. And you've created a path for her life, and that goes for all your kids. God has created a path for their life, and it's the parents' duty to let them go. And if they make mistakes, that's how they're going to learn from them.
That's good advice here. I've got one I'm thinking about when you guys are speaking that reminds me to, very practical. I'm thinking about a duck. You know how a duck on the water is very calm on the outside, above the water, it's very calm. It seems like it's got everything under control, seems relaxed. But under the water, that's where the action's happening, right? It's pedaling with his legs, and so every so often there's a dad or a mom and their child's going to confess something to them and share maybe an accident or maybe something they did that's terrible. and they're gonna share something with you. And a lot of parents, unfortunately, what happens is that they go into shock. They make a big reaction. They go into drama mode, right? And so, or they ground them for life. And so, what the child learns is that the next time I make an accident, or the next time I do something and I mess up, I'm not talking to my dad. I'm not talking to my mom, because I don't want that drama anymore. And so I think one of the advice I see with my mom, she's been through a lot, and I can't even share. I wouldn't be comfortable sharing some of the stuff she had to go through with me, but she was able to be calm, and I could go to her now and I could talk to her about stuff right now, because I know she won't do a big drama. She won't be a drama queen, and she won't make it exaggerated and everything. I could talk to her and stuff. So it's much easier after to have your kid come and talk to you about issues that they're dealing with in their reality, and have a chance to talk to you. All right. So maybe another question here. What is one thing? And I know this is going to kind of be a little repeat of some of the things we talked about. But if you had kids, some of your moms, some of your dads, well, one of your dad, well, two of us are dads. Um, if you had kids, what would you, um, what is something you would reproduce, something you would copy off your mom towards your kids? And we're going to ask Kathleen to talk about that.
Yeah,
There we go.
so my mom, when she's cooking, when she's doing really anything, she's always singing. If she's not singing, then the TV has gospel music on. So I would most certainly reproduce that, because it just teaches you the Word of God with. It's not necessarily sitting down reading the Bible and everything, but it's constantly with you, in songs. And there's so many hymns that she sings in multiple different languages, and I know most of them, and it's really dear to me, and I would totally reproduce that, because um, in a way, it's an easy way to introduce the Word of God into someone's life, and it stays with them forever, because it's a song, right? So I would reproduce that.
So you're saying to me that we should approach Catherine in our church to be part of our worship team because she sings so well, right? Is that what you're saying, Kathleen? That's good. Good advice there. Anybody else? If you had children, what would you reproduce? Um, what would you copy your mom and reproduce in your kids? Go ahead and write it in the chat. For those of you who are online with us, one thing, it doesn't have to be complicated, one thing you would reproduce that you saw your mom doing. All right, last question. We're going to wrap up with this. Again, thank you everybody for sticking with us right to the end. I believe this is going to be helpful to some people out there that needs help. I mean, we don't get a manual on how to be good parents. We don't get a manual on how to be good moms, and sometimes we just need the encouragement and hear similar stories that just encourages us. All right, it's Mother's Day. If your mom was listening online, some of you, your mom is going to be listening. But if some of you, like if your mom had a chance to tune in and listen to you, what would you say to her today? Let's start with you, Heather, and then one after another. Go ahead, write your shout outs to your mom.
Well, as you know, my mom is in Alberta, and she'll probably be listening online. So, Mom, I just want to say from both Sean and I that we love you very much. You're such an encouragement to us. Thank you for your prayers. And if you were here today, we would put you into a huge bear hug, and we would not let you get back on that plane to go back home.
I just want to thank my mom for being who she is, for being there for me, for her prayers that are never ending, and for just believing in me even when times were tough, and sometimes there was no end in sight. She supported me through my journey, and supported Emma, and she's there for us. And we couldn't see life without her is would be so much different. And we cherish every moment that we get to spend with her. And we love you, mommy. And please take care of yourself. And there will be a time when your service will be um, needed and will be welcomed. But I want you to take care of yourself.
So I'll say, I mean, she knows I love her, but I would tell her that I love her. Happy Mother's Day, and her statement is, you know, Billy, I hope I don't die soon. I hope I go up in the rapture, so you don't have to clean out my house. So I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
So, I mean, I'm gonna see her when I go back home. But I just want to say Happy Mother's Day, and you're really such an empowering woman, and you've raised three children so well. I mean, my siblings are really well. They're such nice kids, um, and she just I am who I am because of her and my dad today, and she's done so many things so that I could grow up well and be who I am. So yeah, Happy Mother's Day.
I'm gonna read mine. I'd like to say, Mom, I love you from the bottom of my heart. I will forever cherish all of our adventures we encountered on our journey. Thank you for being you, for loving me unconditionally. Thank you for laughing with me, crying with me, or just being there for me. You were the love of my life, my rock, my everything. You taught me right from wrong, how to be a good person, and how to treat people, just like God wanted us to. Mom, thank you for being you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Carla. And especially Carla right now, as you all know, she's going through, she just recently lost her mom. And so took a lot of courage to come and talk about her mom today. And we appreciate that. And our prayers continue to go out to Carla and your daughter during this time of mourning your mom. Again, guys, thank you so much and appreciate your time today. Let me pull you back up here, all of you. And, if there's any moms out there today that you just need encouragement, you just need support, someone to listen to you, or even just a group of people to pray for you, feel free to reach out to us as a church by phone. Our phone number is 613-446-7586. You can call us anytime from Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 4:30. Give us a call or by email at info@newbeginning-church.com. And it'll be a pleasure to connect, to find someone to listen to you, to pray with you, to offer some support for moms right now, because being a mom in 2021 is challenging. And the beauty of a community, especially in the church, is that we have experienced moms, we have older moms who are helping younger moms in this whole thing of parenting and everything else that is involved in that. So if you're a church member at a church, you have a luxury that's available for you. So please use it. Moms, we value you. Sometimes the daily routine that you're caught up in may not look like much, but it matters. And so we thank you for that. We thank God for your role in our lives. And if my mom's listening, happy Mother's Day, Mom. And thank you so much for your patience on me and for always believing in me, even though I was not walking in a path that was, let's just say that you would see there's lots of potential that's going to come out of this guy. But thank you for your patience and your love. And all of you, thank you so much. Happy Mother's Day, moms. And we're going to go back to the worship team right about now.